Welcome to the March 15th meeting of the Temple Terrace City Council. It's always a pleasure to see everybody here. I would like to remind everybody to please silence your electronic devices, and that goes for us. That's my worst fear, is that I'm going to say that and then my phone is going to go off one of these nights. So if you would, please stand and join me in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to come together tonight. We ask your blessings on our meeting and upon our community. We pray especially that you watch over and protect the people of Ukraine. Help us to conduct our business tonight with wisdom and sincere concern for the common good of all. We ask this as one community, united in the bonds of freedom. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. The first item of business is a proclamation for Women's History Month. Is Marissa Robinson please come to the podium? Welcome. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
So I'd like to read this proclamation to you, and thank you for being here to receive it. And I'd also like to thank Vice Mayor Schistler for bringing this issue up. Thank you very much. The proclamation reads, whereas the U.S. Congress proclaimed the month of March as Women's History Month in 1987 and has proclaimed the observance each year since, and whereas the special appeal of the area of Florida that was to become the city of Temple Terrace was first recognized and capitalized on by Bertha Palmer, an astute businesswoman who focused many efforts on elevating the status of women. And whereas the development plan for Temple Terrace was also greatly influenced by Maud Fowler, another strong-minded businesswoman. And whereas women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our city, state, and country in countless recorded and unrecorded ways. And whereas women have played and continue to play a critical economic, cultural, and social role in every sphere in the life of the city of Temple Terrace and beyond. Now therefore I, Andrew Ross, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Temple Terrace, Florida, do hereby proclaim March 2022 as Women's History Month. Thank you. Marissa, would you like to say a few words?
Just a few. So thank you, council members, for allowing me to accept this proclamation. It has been a privilege to serve as the city's representative on the Historic Advisory Council, and I'm looking forward to honor the city's history in the years to come.
Thank you, Marissa. Come on, you. And a good one. Next item is a presentation by their friends at the Temple Terrace Golf and Country Club regarding a music concert in May. And Ms. Becky Craig, as the Vice Chairman of the Golf and Country Club's board, is here to explain. Welcome, Ms. Craig.
Hi, everyone. Council.
Hello.
It's been a long time. Bill and I discussed. I'm happy to be there. This is just one of a series of events that our committee has planned for the 100th year anniversary. We started about a year ago, and we've had several that included Bertha and the ladies, and I think that's a wonderful thing just happened here tonight. And we just we don't have an actual plan or anything to present to you. I'm just going to be filling you in on what we want to do and what we're proposing. But it's just a concert. We all kind of wanted to do something where we could get the whole community together like 4th of July, because that, I think, is our real Norman Rockwell event where we really do all, many of us get together, and it's just a wonderful day out on the golf course. And so we wanted to see if we could put together something like that for the whole community. And that's what we're trying to do. And we do have, we got some good donations. We have some good sponsors and things like that. So we are able to pay for the entire concert ourselves, which we'll have as a group, as our committee. And we have two bands, and one is a Kenny Chesney cover band, and we have a starter band for that band. And I'm not sure of the name of that one even, James. But it's we just picked the kind of music that Joey Vifranti knew about this band and said they were excellent, and he'd seen them a couple of times before. So that's what we're doing, just a big day together, out on the golf course. It would start at about 5 o'clock with the first band. And we're just looking for a partnership with you all. We would like to propose, if we can, that we will pay for everything for the concert, and it will be free for all the citizens, anybody that wants to come, as many as want to come, and we have really no idea what that might be. I wish there was an aerial photo of a 4th of July event so I could count heads or something. I have no idea how many fit on the golf course there, but and we're asking for your help with support services. We're not asking for any money from you at all, and everyone that we talked to said that we probably overestimated on the amount of money with our first guests for you all to review, and I think we had 2,000, and I don't think we'll get that many if that's kind of what 4th of July gets, but I don't know. So that's what we're asking, that's what we're proposing, that's what we're asking for today. See if you consider just providing the services, the police, and I think the portalets. And then I think we have everything else is what we're proposing. And I know our number, I think you had 13 police and 2 supervisors, and we had 2 paramedics, and we really rethought our first number. I think we were optimistic once we passed that around to some people to think about. But,
So, Ms. Craig, this question I would pose to both you and Dr. Spina. I don't know, maybe everybody else knows more about this. I've heard about this concert planning for a long time. I think many of us have. I know there's been several discussions and meetings about it, but what I haven't heard yet is specifically what exactly is being asked of us and what the staff's recommendation is for. I've heard through rumors really that they're going to hire off-duty officers, and so I don't know specifically what the ask is, and then I'm looking for staff to kind of give us a recommendation, what's this going to cost us. I think we all understand the obvious benefits of a public event. So if somebody can help, at least me, I don't know, maybe you guys know more than I do, but can somebody help me to understand what we're being asked to do?
This is my deer in the headlights look. I'm not sure what we're being asked. We can find that out and come back, but I'm not positive if, are you asking for the city to provide the police and paramedics and then I guess you'll need some street workers too with cones or direction? Are you asking for the city to go in-kind service?
There's a lot of things that we're doing. We have some Boy Scouts doing some things, and we have some volunteers doing some things. But my understanding was mostly what we were asking of you all were police officers, paramedics, and the portalets. Is that kind of what you were thinking, James? Is that?
Well, I'm not thinking anything. I'm not on the committee. I just help out with some of the logistics. But I think what you are asking for, first and foremost, to be treated like the other special events we have in the city, like the Arts Festival, Brewfest, things like that, which is everything but police and fire, but all the leisure services activities, the snow fencing and all the stuff that leisure services provides. In addition to that, I hear that you're asking for the police, the fire, and portalets to be paid for by the city. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that's to be all the leisure services activities, and I guess what they're asking for is police and fire.
Right. Well, it appears like we don't really have a staff recommendation worked up at this point.
No.
And this concert's gonna be in May,
May 14th.
May 14th?
How many people do you expect to come? You said 2,000?
It's really hard, and that was our original estimate, and then when everything came back, how many police we would need, how many this, how many that, and those of us that were experienced with events thought, that can't be right then, because that's not what they, it was different from 4th of July, and it was different, and we thought we overestimated, and we just didn't have a,
Yeah, I think, if I could speak
number.
somewhat, I think from being leisure services for a long time, and I think Mr. Langfeld can provide some numbers, and the chief, on what's normal for the 4th of July. It's certainly not as many as 2,000, so I don't know if you have. Yes,
Okay,
please
please
do.
help.
A group of your department heads got together a few weeks ago and met with Jim Music from the Country Club and discussed this event coming up on May 14th and how city services would fit into the scope of what they're trying to do. We discussed needs for police officers and the amount of hours that the police officers would need to be on site. We discussed the need for EMS staff and when they would need to be on site with regards to sanitation and would they need dumpsters and would they need staff on site to work the event. We discussed leisure services role in the event and what we would provide. During that meeting, we kind of came up with some rough estimates of the in-kind value of what it would cost, not a dollar of value, but the hours for the police, the hours for the fire, the dumpsters from sanitation, those things, and that number came up to, if I remember off the top of my head, somewhere around $12,000. In the police hours, the fire hours of in-kind services from the city. We discussed a little bit about the layout. Anticipated crowd size in the neighborhood of 1,500 to 2,000 people is the number that we had kind of looked at if the concert event attracts a group similar in size to 4th of July, that's the number that they're going to be looking at is, somewhere in that 1,500 to 2,000 person number. Alcohol would be served at the event, would be available at the event, which upped the police's response requirements, so they're prepared for any contingencies, especially, with alcohol being served. So we did have a lengthy meeting, with the country club and they're aware of kind of what the city's costs are. What James was alluding to is how the city services fit in assisting with this event as compared to some of the other events that we do where we provide logistical and city service support to events put on by third parties such as Brewfest and the Arts Festival and Art en Blanc, where it's an event put on by somebody other than the city, unlike Winter Wonderland or 4th of July where it's the city that's putting on these events. These events are put on by third parties. Leisure services, again, we provide lots of support to those events with regards to helping them with parking, helping them with sound systems and things of that nature. But when it comes to the police and the fire and the public works and in obtaining porta potties and light towers and things like that, those costs are absorbed by the organization that's putting the event on, not by the city. So what the country club is asking for here is something that's a little bit out of the norm when it comes to the city supporting an event being put on by a third party. I think that might kind of fill in your gaps of what you were asking.
It does, and thank you, but, so I think, at least for me, the part that I'm still lacking is, first of all, and not lacking because this is out of the ordinary, I think we all understand that, this is to celebrate the centennial of the golf course, which hasn't happened ever. So, you know, it's kind of a new thing. I think everybody understands that. And it's not gonna happen again for another 100 years, and chances are we won't be on council. So,
It just seems like.
you know, it's kind of a different, unique event. This is not something that, but I think what we're needing is kind of to boil this down at the staff level and give us a recommendation of what the chief thinks he can absorb in his budget and what, you know, what it is that we're being asked to do and what the recommendation. We don't want to agree to something that, you know, the chief and the fire chief and you are going, oh my God, what are they doing to me? They're killing me, right? I don't want to do that. On the other hand, I don't want them to walk away and say they're not giving us anything and we're going to put on a big public, right? So can we shake this down the funnel a little further maybe and come up with some recommendations, or
Yes.
Mr. Chambers?
I was just gonna say, whatever we do, we need to do it soon, no later than next meeting, because they've got a plan, and this concert's, 6 weeks away, or,
I think.
my math
I
may
think the
not be
police
great
chief
on weeks.
Might have had, Chief, did you have something to chime? It'd be great if we can get this ironed out now.
Well, certainly, we and the fire and all of the directors that have participated in this meeting would like to be of assistance. If you ask me, do I have this within my budget? No, sir, I don't have this within my budget. We haven't even done 4th of July yet. We always try to be very, very tight with our overtime budget and such, and that's what, this would be a 4th of July type of thing. There's only so much I can do. As far as the manpower needs, we have to shut it down as if it were the 4th of July early enough so that everybody can come in for setup, and then when the pedestrians start coming into the concert, there's the safety involved. And I think Councilmember Chambers was about to allude to the difference between this and the 4th of July is we have other fairways where people sit. This is going to be an event, and hopefully, the way we discussed it at the meeting, at least, it's going to be well advertised, and it's going to draw people in. It's going to be a great event. I would like to think, and I shared at the meeting, I want to come and participate in the event, not necessarily work the event, which is what I have to do for 4th of July. But I don't know that anybody had anticipated this, so there's no, I mean, you guys can allow for there to be an exception and do whatever you want as a council, I'm sure, but as far as, is it something within my budget to be able to do? No.
So I just checked, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
Dr. Spina?
I just checked with the finance director, and she said there's funding in contingency if we could move over if that's what council desires.
Well, but then we're left with trying to guesstimate a price tag for this, because I'm sure the fire chief is going to tell us the same thing, and probably, am I wrong?
Ian Kemp, Fire Chief, Temple Terrace Fire Department. Where we could find the money is salary savings. We had one individual that we didn't fill in the beginning of the year, so obviously that would be something that the city manager would have to. But we could. I think it's a great event. We only have 2 people we'd be hiring for, so it'd be the cost would be my understanding would be a lot less than the police department. So I feel pretty comfortable that the fire department would be able to handle it.
Carl, any way to have, I mean, are we committing $5,000 or are we committing $20,000? I don't know what we're being asked to commit.
At the conclusion of the meeting, the number that was come up with, Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, was somewhere around $12,000 in in-kind services. And that was police and fire and PW. Again, the leisure services support we can manage internally just by rearranging schedules for the people who are working that event. Instead of working, on Thursday evening, they work on Saturday evening instead, and we just cover it internally.
Okay.
So
So,
there's
no, sorry, speak.
Go ahead.
I don't know who was first, so.
That's okay, go ahead.
Councilmember Abel.
Thank you. So to Mr. Chambers' point that they need to make a decision soon about this, I understand that, and I also think that this sounds like a very important event that has a lot of good potential to benefit the city. But all these other events that are put on by third parties that we've mentioned, like the Brewfest or the Arts Festival or Art en Blanc, those are all things that we've had ample time to plan for, we know about, and they've been in the budget. And this is something that's sort of coming up quickly with this sense of urgency. And I think that, you know, we really do need to see the numbers, and we really do need to see the staff recommendations, even if it's going to take us another couple of weeks to know exactly what we can offer. Because just kind of springing something like this, it doesn't really sit that well with me.
Councilmember Donahue?
The only reason I am willing, as a person who manages some of those events you mentioned and write that check, the reason City of Temple Terrace is who we are is because we've had a golf course here for 100 years, okay? We were built around it. So this is as much our celebration as it is the country clubs. The golf course, I should say. The golf course was here probably before the country club. But I do agree that not having a finite number, it makes it difficult to just say, yes, we'll find the money. But in this case, we'll find the money. We should find the money because what we're being asked, and of course, if the directors and the chiefs are saying, you know, they can manage it, of course, police chief is choking a little bit on it, but, and I don't blame him because of, you know, considering his officers who will be on, that's quite a few officers that will be here. I do think your number is about right. We have 1,500 at the Brewfest, but they're all in Woodmont Park. So this is spread out and, you know, cars. And I mean, I can tell you Leisure Services has this down. They know how to park people, and they know how to get them moved in and get them moved out. So I would be in favor of it only because I see this as it needs to be a partnership between the city. And I'm sorry that y'all didn't come to us earlier. I think you were trying to raise the money to get it done on your own, and that has been problematic. So that's why you're here at this late hour. So that's just my comment.
Councilmember Chambers?
The clarification for Mr. Langfeld. So other than personnel costs, the hard costs, or for Ms. Craig, hard costs would be cost of portalettes, and you have,
Light towers, and then I think you would consider the dumpsters and the tipping fees for the dumpsters to be hard costs as well. They also have the cost of the band and the sound technicians and those hard costs as well, but I think they have those covered through their donations ahead of time. It's just that the city, well, I don't want to say the city hard costs because the light towers and the portalettes would not fall under city hard costs. Those are paid to vendors.
right, but that's dollars that, I mean, personnel, in your department, you move people around.
Correct.
So you're not blowing an overtime budget.
No.
Police
we move
probably
people
will
around
have a
and-
significant amount of overtime, so would fire, but your department wouldn't,
No, sir.
right? And you've calculated how many portalettes they would have to,
We would set it up, the way we've been planning this and discussing this, I don't want to say planning, making recommendations to the country club is to scale it to what we do for 4th of July. Given that we're going to have a similar number of people in a similar type environment to what we do on 4th of July, that the amount of light towers that we use and how they're placed, the amount of porta potties that we get and how they're placed, they should mirror what we do for 4th of July. And the same with parking. I described it as a 4th of July event without the fireworks. You know, with the entertainment and the people on the fairway and the food and the drink and, you know, the revelry that goes along with it. It's just you're taking the fireworks piece out of the equation.
okay, thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Craig, what is the size of the VIP? They're gonna be charging the VIPs, right?
Yes, we're just thinking, you know, 2 chairs or something in an area, or for a family, you know, and it can be, we're gonna have different sizes. It can be 4, it can be 2 or
Okay,
something.
but y'all, is there an expectation for the club to be profiting off of this in any way, shape, or form, or just covering hard costs?
It'll go toward hard cost, probably, but I don't think we've even discussed that yet. I can do a plan in 2 hours for all of this. I can drop a plan for us and figure out some costs for, you know, those kind of proposals. But we're reoriented from how we usually do a concert. You know, we usually put the stage right up against the maintenance building for the, you know, the golf carts and things. And we want to aim it a little bit, maybe catty corner, aim it toward the long view of the golf course so that people can stack better back that way instead of just being kind of crowded in the fairway. So, and one reason we did that was so that we could fit more VIP areas if that will work out, you know, because we have more room, more length. We didn't want to take up the whole in front of the stage if we oriented the old way, so.
Well, my only concern with it is I hate for the club to be making a profit on it when the city's going to be actually cutting hard checks for some of the expenses. And if the
Yeah, we don't need to make it, we're not trying to make a
Okay,
profit, so
as long as it's
however, I'm sure the committee would agree with
Okay, as long as it's not
however it shakes out,
expectation
that
of
we
a
can
profit,
make it
then
work, yeah.
you know, recognizing the importance of Centennial the facet of the whole year, okay, and everything that the activities that the club has tried to put on. Given the fact that it would be open to the city. I wish it wasn't so much. I wish we could cap it off at a little bit less, but I do realize we have the contingencies to cover it. We're really not concerned about that, but I haven't seen or heard of any advertising. It doesn't mean it hasn't happened. I just haven't seen anything on it.
We've got it ready, but kind of afraid to put it out there yet until.
Okay, so it doesn't happen unless the city steps up and covers this. Well, I'd like to get a better number on the hard costs, for a cap, if we could, but I do understand the time proximity issue. And,
Do you think it would help, Councilman, if we ask some other cities? I mean,
So, I'm sorry?
like cities, James and I know, you know, other cities that do these kinds of things. They're kind of, you know, some committee, public partnerships, and
Well,
same kind of events. What size, how many people come? Because I don't know. It's hard for me to believe that as many would come to this as to the fireworks, but I don't know.
Well, I'm comfortable with our directors,
1,500?
with their experience and
2,000,
what they've
yeah.
done in the past, and with Councilman Chambers and
It does
his
make estimating
experience.
hard for, you know, most of the things that we need, but.
I mean, I'd like to put a cap on it, but I don't know that if we say 10, that puts you in a $2,000 hole. So if 12 is the number, if that's what our directors think that can cover it, I think the overall benefit to the city and to the area far outweighs that. So it's,
The difficulty with that, Vice Mayor, is
I know.
there's no way to
I
know
know.
what that dumpster's gonna weigh when they get
they're
to the
done.
scale.
It's
I
gonna
mean,
be
they-
open.
You know,
We need to overestimate
there's
that.
no way to know if the officer's gonna make an arrest and get caught up at booking for 4 hours.
Right.
There's no way to, some of those things you just can't
Yeah.
know. So,
Dr. Spina had his hand up.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Dr.
We can provide you at the April 5th meeting a breakdown of the estimated costs and then where the funding will come from. And then we can divide it up into what the soft costs will be and the hard costs. So you'd have an idea of how that goes. And then we could ask you maybe on what your fundraising balances are. And then if there's extra in yours, you could pay some of the hard costs. You could pay the
We're
portalets or the
selling
light
beer and
tower.
we're selling some grab-and-go food.
So is that going to allow,
VIP areas, yeah.
is that going to allow them enough time to plan the event successfully?
Well, it's 2 months from today. They haven't started advertising, so that'll be 6 weeks from the 5th. If you start to advertise and tie it in, you have an opportunity there, but I think that's the best alternative.
Okay, so I will have two questions. I guess on April 5th is when we're going to take action.
Okay.
But my one question is for city manager, one's for you. And the internal question is, these contingency funds that are available in finance, I don't know where they might exist. Are those funds going to be divvied up proportionately and distributed to the affected departments to make their budgets whole?
Right, we would tie it to the actual expenditure in that department.
Okay, because what I wouldn't want to happen is, you know, we have a decentralized budget. Chief Albano spends 20,000, or not 20, but spends $5,000 out of his budget. Well, the city's got those funds, but they're over here. They don't really do anything to restore.
We can tie him. The fire chief already said where he could get money from, so he probably wouldn't
Okay.
need any
The
external
The
funding.
second question is for the country club, and that is, if we're gonna be co-sponsors of this, in a manner of speaking, I think it's reasonable of us to want to have the right to market this as a city event also,
Absolutely, yeah.
because, we typically don't spend a lot of energy marketing other people's events, even if they occur in the city. But in this case, we want the right to do that and promote it as a city event if we're
We
gonna,
want the school kids to take something home if we can, everybody.
okay.
Whatever we can do.
Is this acceptable to bring this back on April the 5th?
Yes.
Okay, does that work for everybody here? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Craig. Thank you so much. Next, yes. Oh, this one I thought I had the lid on, Ray.
We can tell you exactly how much it's.
Welcome, Mr. LeBlanc.
I was at the meeting with Jim Music and them,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if you folks got it. He had sent out a email with details of his cost to date without the fire chief's EMTs of $7,000-8,000, and it's missing the light, it's missing that and the porta potties. I don't know if you have
How
it.
much?
7,000 to 8,000.
Okay.
I can forward it to you folks. I mean,
No, we don't want to know that.
okay.
We'll
Well,
get on-
it's just missing 2 items.
Forward it to the city
Do
manager.
you? Okay, I wasn't sure if you're aware of that.
But that's pretty consistent with what Director Langfeld said about 12 grand if you factor in the couple of missing
It's gonna
items.
be about that. All right, I'll get
Yeah.
it to Mr. Spinner.
Okay. Thank you. Very good. Next item are the approval of the March 1st city council meeting minutes.
Approve. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed? No nays. Minutes are approved. Next item is the persons wishing to be heard on items not listed on the agenda or items on the consent agenda. We do have a 3-minute time limit for all members of the public's comments. We do ask that speakers come to the podium, state your name and city of residence, and we like to assure everybody that your comments are taken seriously and followed up on. I have one request at this time from Allison Fernandez. Welcome, Ms. Fernandez. There are forms in the back of the room if anybody would like to submit forms to the city clerk, and we will call you up. Welcome.
Good evening, Council. Allison Fernandez, Temple Terrace. I would like to address the historic preservation prospect. People moved to the city of Temple Terrace for a variety of reasons. I personally have resided here since '72 and chose to come back and raise my family here. And it was for a number of reasons. And a good piece of that is the historic component of the founding of the city, the golf course, the way that all of the homes and the golf course interconnect, and the parks and the green space. And I think that another piece of it is the historic architecture. And that's been noted before, various architects with USF and other people. And I think it would be a very good idea to help get some sort of program going that will help motivate people to preserve what sometimes can be a challenging building to preserve and live in. But I know we frequently go to St. Augustine and just love the historic nature of the architecture there. And I think it's just important to continue that as a piece of the character of this city. So I don't know what form it will take, but I think it is important to honor the history of the city and to help maintain the character and the nature of this city and attract families for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fernandez. Are there other members of the public? That's the only request I currently have. Okay. Seeing none, consent agenda. I'll introduce Dr. Spinner. Would you like to present the consent agenda?
Yes, first I have a procedural question. In the future, would you like a consent agenda to be an actual consent agenda where you remove items if you want to discuss it, but otherwise it's just voted upon?
That's typically how we do it, yeah.
Okay.
Any discussion or questions, a council member would ask to pull that from the consent agenda.
Okay.
Otherwise, we don't discuss the consent, we just get a presentation.
Oh, you get a presentation anyway?
Well, you just introduced the item.
Okay, all right. This is a request from the police department. It's a recommendation to adopt a resolution approving the purchase of one VirTra V-100LE-1 Response to Resistance Simulator, which includes installation, training, interactive coursework, accessory shipping, and a 2-year service plan. The purchase of the response to resistor stimulator is approved within the fiscal year 2022 budget, and $39,895 was included in the Community Investment Tax Fund for this purchase. There is a one-time system trade-in amount of $10,000. So the aforementioned credit brings the adjusted purchase price to $41,279, with the remainder coming from the Police General Fund. And staff recommends this purchase.
Thank you, Dr. Spina. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No nays. Consent agenda is approved. Next is council business, discussion of the Swamp Mountain Bike Club's proposed trail options for Riverfront Preserve. Says I will introduce the item. Okay. So some months ago, you will recall that we approved the city to enter into an agreement with the Swamp Mountain Bike Club to create some mountain bike trails in the Riverfront Preserve. We heard a lot of public comment at the time. We were mostly, the council was very adamant that we were trying to prevent confliction between hikers and bicyclists. And we urged both Mr. Langfeld and the Swamp Mountain Bike Club, as they design these trails, to minimize or prevent, hopefully at all, any trail crossings between bike trails crossing hiking trails, because that's where we're concerned mostly about the conflicts. The agreement was subject upon city approval of the proposed trail routes. And Mr. Director Langfeld is here to discuss and present the results of those meetings and discussions.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. You stole some of my thunder on the background of how.
Well, I'm
how we
sorry,
got here.
that's what it said. I wasn't ready for that either.
So I won't go on repeating everything that you just said. But yes, following the meeting that was held on October the 5th, where the agreement between the city and Swamp was ultimately approved, it was a contentious meeting with significant public input, some in favor of the project and some opposed to the project. It ultimately was approved by council with a 4-1 vote. Following that vote, I met with representatives from Swamp. I met with their trail builder. We walked the property. We looked at what we had out there to work with. In late December, I walked the property with Michael Cole from Natural Trail Builders, and he was showing me where they were going to be laying out the proposed trails and what they wanted to do. As that meeting wrapped up, I had two principal concerns that I felt needed to be addressed with what they were proposing. What he was proposing to do was to repurpose one of the existing hiking trails, the trail that leads from the parking lot out towards the pavilion area, to repurpose that from a hiking trail to an off-road bicycle trail. Additionally, they were proposing to construct a flow trail, and in my inquiries as to what a flow trail is, it is a flat trail that is constructed in a manner with berms and banks and changes in topography that a cyclist can negotiate this trail with little to no pedaling by manipulating body weight and the cycle as they. Is that a fair assessment of what a flow trail is?
That is one of the INVA definitions of a flow trail, correct?
However, in order to build this flow trail on the site, they would have needed to bring in fill material to do so. The agreement that we have specifically addresses bringing in outside fill material to build the trail, so I had concerns with that as well. Their plan did have additional benefits to the property in the expansion of some of the hiking trails that were on site that they thought would further enhance the hiking experience on the property, and also wanted to assist us by rebuilding the maintenance trail that led from the parking lot to the pavilion area. The maintenance trail that existed on that property was lost when the housing development that is being built to the south of the property surveyed their land, and the actual property line and their new fence location went right down the middle of where our maintenance trail was, and which negated our ability to use that trail any longer. So Swamp was proposing to assist us by rebuilding that maintenance trail. But I still had some concerns because, and Cheryl, can you put up the first slide, please? This first slide was off of Swamp's initial presentation to City Council back on April the 6th. The lines in red are the existing hiking trails on the property. The lines in purple are the preliminary survey of where they felt that the bike trails could be laid out in a manner that would eliminate or greatly minimize any conflicts between hikers and cyclists. However, in this presentation, which was done to council, it did not mention the elimination or the repurposing of the existing hiking trail. And this is where my concern with Swamp's proposal and what they wanted to do to build the mountain bike trails originated from. I had multiple discussions with Shane Richardson from Swamp regarding this, and we went back and forth and started working on alternative plans. But in his review of what was available out there on the property, Cheryl, can you switch to the second slide, please? Oops. The second slide, the red trail on the left side of the screen is their proposed mountain bike trail, which is repurposing the existing hiking trail in that area. The white line is the hiking trail area. The southern end, I guess the leg to the left where it kind of lays over a blue line, that is existing hiking trail. Where it is just white line, that is where they're proposing to expand the hiking trails on the property. The orange line on the southern end of the map is the maintenance trail, which would be rebuilt by Swamp if this plan moves forward. Again, my concern with this plan is its deviation from the original presentation. In the original presentation, the area to the south of the white line, between the white line and the access road, there were proposed bike trails in that area, which are no longer being considered for construction. The red line represents about 0.53 miles of mountain bike trail, which, doesn't seem to me like a whole heck of a lot of mountain bike trail for what we want to do out there, as opposed to the original presentation of what they wanted to do. It does, now, this plan, again, it does expand the hiking experience on the property, but my concern is its repurposing of existing and established hiking trails on the property. So there are benefits to the property, but there's also some things that I think raise some concerns about the usage of the property. And that's where we kind of came to an impasse with Swamp, where when they presented this plan, they said that this was their final offer on what they could do out on the property. I do want to make note of a couple of things. First of all, I am in no way opposed to having off-road bicycle trails on this property. I think it is it can be a great usage in that property when it is done so in a manner that coexists with the hiking experiences on that property. The second thing I want to make sure that I mention is my interactions with Shane, the president of Swamp, and his representatives have been nothing but positive. He is a consummate professional. They are dedicated and passionate about what they do. All of the interactions have been extremely positive, and we've worked very hard to come to a plan that would meet the needs of all the expected users of this property. However, I continue to have some concerns about what their final offerings are for how this can move forward. Shane is here. I'm sure he'd be willing to ask any questions should you have any.
Can I add a few things before Shane gets up?
Certainly, Dr. Smith.
We sat down and Carl's right that his concern was that the area in red was a existing hiking trail, and that would be converted to a biking trail, and that it was about a little over half a mile. So we sat down to try to work out a compromise, and some of the compromise was that the maintenance trail would be built and follow along the south side of the bike trail, and that could substitute also as a hiking trail. So that would be additional hiking. And then the white area would be expanded. Some of it would be cut short. You can see there's a black line connecting the north and south side of the white hiking trail, and that was because neighbors to the east complained that the trail was too close. Now, I don't know how a hiking trail can impact a residential neighborhood that way, but that was an effort to maybe not build that leg, but I think that's kind of a weak complaint about a hiking trail. So, and then we have in green, we asked for a time frame of when the trails would be activated and they would actually be able to be used, and that's shown in the legend. But the green areas are expansions of what would be future biking trail. So the red that would end there would go around, part of it's cut off, but it goes around an area that you can see there in the circular motion. And then there is that lower green area, which would be a biking trail, and that's the, what'd you call it?
Flow trail.
Flow trail. So that was kind of a compromise we reached, that we could go forward with this plan. Some of the other issues were that there's some, I don't know if they're actual wetlands, but they're low property, and they hold water. And some of the other areas have heavy brush and would impact natural habitat and wildlife. So this was the best compromise we could come to present to you on. I think this is more of a local trail. It's not, people aren't going to come here from Mount Dora to, go on this trail like people go here to Mount Dora, but it would be for local residents to bike or hike. And so this is kind of those were the compromises that were made.
Thank you, Dr. Spina. Swamp? Mr. Richardson?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Anyone have any specific questions for me that I may be able to answer for you?
Well, we'll get to council member questions after public comment.
Gotcha.
So I just wanted to call you up if you have anything you'd like to present.
Sure. I mean, everything that Carl has presented, is agreed upon. The only thing that we could not come to an agreement with at the time when we first passed this off to Carl and staff is the repurposing of a portion of the existing hiking trail. And I tried to explain during the entire process why we came up with that option. And why we decided to steer away from the areas between the existing hiking trail and White, and then also the access road. We went out there probably 6, 7, 8 times, a couple of times with Carl. And not only did myself and a few other volunteers went out, we also had the trail builder that we're working with potentially on this come out with us. And then we also had a volunteer who is also a biologist that does wetland mitigations and all of that stuff, and to make sure that what we had envisioned is not going to span wetlands, which can get very tricky and costly with doing wetland mitigation, and then also making sure that we didn't encroach on natural habitat or remove natural habitat in order to create new trail. And the reason why between White and the White Line and then the access road is simply because once we walked through there, number one, it's very heavy brush. We would have to go in there and remove quite a bit because a green trail up to a blue difficulty trail has anywhere from a 3-foot total wide footprint down to, for blue difficulty trails, I believe it's 2 to 2.5 foot total trail impact, not just the trail tread. And going through that area, it would require us to remove saw palmettos. It would require us to remove saw palmetto roots and so forth to be able to create a pathway. And we did initially hesitate with proposing repurposing of a portion of the hiking trail, but considering all of the different concerns by council and then also the neighbors that we had received, and then also with our further explorations of the property, we came up with this final proposal after myself and the city manager and Carl had a discussion on Friday to see if we could come up with a compromised proposal to be able to discuss and see where everybody would like to move forward with. And that was something that was also important to us too, because we do specifically remember that council and then also some of the neighbors requested to discuss this as well before we moved forward. And we want to make sure that we have the best implementation possible for the city and for the community. And again, this all ties all of that into our proposal. It also ties into IMBA specifications for building off-road cycling trails. And in our agreement with the city, it does mention that we would be following IMBA guidelines to be able to construct those. And so, the reality is that, after all of this discussion between staff and us and volunteers and so forth, the one sticking point was the repurposing of the existing hiking portion, which at the time when we finally put this into play and said that this is our final proposal to be considered to move forward with, we felt confident that this is the best implementation possible for the user groups and for the property. To be able to help mitigate the concerns, and then also to be able to maximize as much space as possible for both user groups.
Thank you, Mr.
Absolutely.
Councilmember Chambers, are you able to see this map sufficiently?
Yes, yeah, I've had help from.
Okay, because we could take a minute to have Carl come and point it if you need that.
I've got it, thank you.
Okay, all right, very good.
Appreciate you asking.
Public comment. I have one request to speak so far. Annette Rennie. Welcome, Ms. Rennie.
Annette Rennie, 9512 Woodland Ridge Drive. I live back there. In 2012, we met with Joe Affronti when this was all being done, and he promised us that it would remain a walking trail. There are 6 parking spaces back there and 1 handicap spot. I walk it, as do several of my neighbors, just about every day. I saw a fox with its kits the other day. It was amazing. There are lowlands. Yes, there are wetlands. There are gopher turtles. This is a preserve. That's what it was meant to be. That's what it states on the sign, preserve. It doesn't say biking trails. Preserve, to walk and be in nature. It's landlocked by the river. We even asked D.R. Horton to put up a fence to protect it where the citizens wouldn't have access, through their backyards and could just do anything they wanted to, and they agreed. We don't have to develop everything we can just have nature and beauty. There are so many biking areas that are around the area. I mean, Flatwoods, Lettuce Lake, Hillsborough, the one on 301. We don't need to develop this into a biking trail. Leave nature alone. We've interrupted it enough. Please, I'm asking you, do not go forth with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rennie. Are there other members of the public? I see Ms. Tumbleson, welcome.
Okay, here's my request.
Got it.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Okay, I was just watching this. Okay, has Hillsborough County Environmental Protection Commission been out there and staked stuff? Okay, EPC requires a 30-foot setback from any wetlands. Now, who is absorbing this cost for EPC to come out, or an engineer or environmentalist to do this? This is my question. Okay. All right. We do have a lot of bike trails around Flatbush, etc., like Ms. Rennie said. Okay. This is a preserve. Now, in the past, when I was working for Hillsborough County, when you went to EPC and they started looking at changing gopher turtles, and redoing them, that was a major project, and putting them someplace else. So I'm sorry. Okay, just hearing the response and listening to it without documentation from EPC, which we have Hillsborough County Environmental Protection, which was stated and is set up by the state government. It is not a state organization. It is Hillsborough County's. So I want someone from EPC to go out on the property and to look at these trails and to evaluate them and give us a proper input. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Tumbleson. Are there other members of the public who wish to comment? Seeing none, council member questions. Councilmember Donahue.
Okay, you two boys can come on up. All right, so the repurposing. Did I understand that you were still going to have walking trails?
Yes.
Okay. And have they been increased or diminished?
So if we're able to move forward with this, the amount of hiking will be increased on the property.
By how much?
Yeah.
I'm not sure the actual total, but if you look on the map, it does. We did calculate total hiking distance versus total biking distance, which the total biking distance would include future phases. So it looks like we are at 8,376.65 feet for the hiking trail, and then 6,589.98 feet for the total proposed areas for off-road cycling.
That in miles would be the hiking distance is about 1.6 miles, and the total biking with the projected areas would be 1.2 miles.
And in moving that from what you had originally proposed, to answer Mrs. Tumbleton's question, are we moving habitats or are we moving around them?
We wouldn't be moving any habitats whatsoever with the current proposal. And this is one of the reasons why we went with this proposal, because if you look at the hiking trail in white and then the access road between those two areas, that would require habitat disruption. And we felt that we didn't feel comfortable enough with doing that, because we, in the last 25 years, have also worked with environmental, Florida Department of Environmental Protection, and then the ELAP program through Hillsborough County and other state agencies. And we have come across those issues before, and we wanted to mitigate those issues here to make sure that we had as little impact as possible to the property. And to answer, again, to reiterate, we are not planning on creating or moving or actually disturbing or moving any existing habitat with what we're trying to propose.
Okay, and one last comment. I hear people say, you can go back there and do anything you want. That's not a good thing.
Correct.
And when you have eyes on the street, more people know that there are eyes who could see that you are doing something inappropriate. So I would think it would be an increased safety issue to have bikers and walkers more than just a few. And I'm guessing that we're not going to increase the number of parking spaces, correct?
You are correct in that the more people who are back there on the property doing things that they're supposed to be doing, the fewer people we're going to have back there doing things they're not supposed to be doing.
That was my point.
There's currently established parking for about 7 cars. There is room on the south side of the access road to create more unimproved, I think would be the best term for parking spaces, where we put in some curb stops along the scrub line that would delineate parking spots for more vehicles back there. We probably wouldn't need more than 3 or 4 more at the most back there. The scope of the trails on this site just will not generate the volume of cyclists out there that would greatly impact parking on the site. In fact, I think a lot of the people who are going to be biking out there actually probably live close enough that they're going to be riding their bikes there.
Well, that was what I was going to say. How many parking spaces does Flatwoods have? And they have,
Oh, yeah, they have several, but they also have an 8-mile paved loop and 30 miles of
yes,
off-road trail.
yes, and so this is a much smaller
Correct.
space. Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
Vice Mayor Schistler beat you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for bringing this information up. In the interest of everybody, in transparency, I voted against it to begin with, but that we're not here to rehash that vote. We're here to discuss the changes that have been proposed since then. To start off, the first thing is I appreciate the additional hiking area, that area to the north, that white area, that being new in there would be a significant improvement to the hiking. I too go back there with my grandchildren and my wife, and we go back there all the time. And it's, you can go the short distance on the side and then up to the river. To be able to go further along the river, I think is pretty good. However, how, in the original discussion, one of the claims to fame was that it was going to be relatively unobtrusive to come in and build these out. A guy was going to come in with a chainsaw, which would be the loudest thing heard by anybody, in cutting down areas and making paths wide enough. How do you propose to make this, I can't remember what you call it now, the orange, was it green, where it's going to be bringing in fill dirt and berms and everything else? How are you going to do that?
So that is a future just kind of idea that we put onto the proposal. It doesn't have to be approved by staff. It is something that we wanted to potentially consider at a future time. But we do understand staff's concerns with bringing outside material onto the preserve. We have the same concerns from ELAP and FDEP as well and other properties that we maintain. It is possible to be able to bring clean fill and so forth onto the property. However, that particular aspect is something that if staff chooses not to go forward with, then of course that particular future phase would not take place. As far as the construction or the activation, I should say, of that is concerned, and the reason why I say activation versus construction is because there's not going to be any heavy equipment involved in this. We don't use any heavy equipment at other properties that we've built trails on. The heaviest equipment potentially would be a truck and a trailer. Being able to move the material around and the material would be hand placed, and it would be actually done with shovel work and so forth. And we don't use any excavators or anything like that to be able to do this sort of thing. There's a really good example, and I don't remember if I've sent it over to staff or not, but there's a really good example over at Starkey Ranch housing development, where they have a little tiny family flow trail that was built for them, using material that had been removed from some of the developed sites, and then repurposed for that. And that was done all by buckets and wheelbarrows and shovels to be able to do that. So, in order to be able to do that in the future, if, being able to utilize potentially clean fill and other approved materials for this type of property, it would be a lot of volunteer work, a lot of wheelbarrows, a lot of shovels, a lot of food, a lot of water. And that's how it would be activated, excuse me.
What's staff's recommendation?
My
We're
concern.
still in questions, so we've got other people in the
Okay,
queue here,
okay.
so. Councilmember Abel.
This is a question for Mr. Langfeld. So going off what one of the citizens who spoke said, is there any sort of EPC impact requirement for a project like this?
This project, the property of Riverfront Preserve is managed by Florida Communities Trust, which is a arm of EPC. Is that correct?
So, yes.
And we provide to FCT, Florida Communities Trust, each year an annual report of the usage of the property, the maintenance of the property, and the things that we're doing on that property. Our agreement with FCT was amended last summer. The original agreement with FCT did not specify having off-road bicycle trails on the property. Following the April 6th meeting where we were asked to move forward with preparing to an agreement, one of the steps of that process was reaching out to FCT to amend our management agreement that we have with them to permit off-road bicycle usage on that property. And that was completed prior to the October council meeting when the agreement was approved.
All right, thank you for that.
Councilmember Chambers?
Right, thank you. And I wanted to ask about ELAP, but thank you for getting that question in. So this one's kind of weird. I need you to explain a green section on the map.
Sure.
Yeah,
Can we put that
Everyone
back?
is-
I need to put that up, yeah, so I know what green is. Okay. The proposed flow trail that's from the entrance of the park along the property line south of the road and north of the housing development, that is proposed down the,
It is a proposed future phase.
okay. If it gets built, how close is it to the property line, like extremely close?
That has not been determined yet because we've been focusing on trying to figure out how to maximize just the single track portion. And as far as the exact location of where that flow trail would be in that area, would have to be determined with staff at a later time before we decided to move forward with it if staff chose that it was an appropriate option.
Thank you.
And I guess just for clarification, would that impact that would impact the existing hiking trail then?
So, the existing hiking trail that's along the perimeter it would be off to the furthest side away from that existing hiking trail that's there. The maximum width for this would be no more than 3 foot, just like what the green difficulty trails would be. And then
Hold on, Shane, slow down. Brian, can we put this back up on the monitor, please? I'm losing track of where you're talking about. So back up and tell me, we're talking about the green line that goes above the white box?
Yes.
Okay. And so the original question was, how close is that to the property line? And you said it's still under consideration.
Correct.
Okay, now, where's the hiking trail we're talking about existing? Is that the blue?
It's in blue. Some of it is.
Okay, now I'm up with you. Go ahead.
Some of it's cut up. Some of it is not continuous. And so that particular portion is pretty close to the access road. And we when looking at the property, we didn't quite yet determine whether or not it would be pushed towards the property line or if it would be best served to put in more towards the access road with fencing to be put along that to have a barrier off from the access road. Again, we included this in the proposal to show that there is the potential for more options at the preserve when it comes to off-road cycling. And this was something contingent upon future staff approval to be able to move forward with that, depending on how comfortable they feel after discussions, further discussions on how we would actually be able to activate that space, if and how much additional material would be needed to be able to activate that space. If there's a significant amount of material that would be required to activate that, we would also be hesitant with activating that particular phase as well. So I can't give you any more specifics on that particular pathway at this time because we didn't really focus too much on the logistics of that particular pathway. Just that it is a possibility to be able to consider in the future.
Okay, so am I understanding correctly that no matter what happens with this tonight, that neon green line is still pending future approval regardless of what happens?
Correct.
Is that, okay.
Yes, it is potential, not something that we're trying to do right away. And how this usually goes is we usually focus on a single track portion first, and then we.
No, that's not my point. My point is, no matter what happens here tonight, that green line is still subject to future approval.
Correct.
That's not part and parcel of what we're talking about tonight.
Correct.
Okay. You still have the floor, I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you. No, I thought I gave it up, but that's good. A question, none of this has gone to the neighbors, correct? Because we haven't had a plan yet to take to the neighbors, because that's one of our concerns we had at previous meetings, that the neighborhood is informed and.
That's correct. I have not brought any of this to the neighbors yet because in my discussions with Shane and with Swamp, we had not yet come to an agreement as to what I considered to be a plan moving forward that met the original intent of the presentation, that I had concerns with the repurposing of the hiking trails, that I had concerns with the flow trail and how the agreement that we have in Swamp kind of restricts some of the things that they're talking about doing in order to build the flow trail. So there were some concerns that I had that we were trying to iron out prior to this going to the neighbors and saying, hey, here's the plan that we have to start building the trails. And we came to a point of, for lack of a better term, an impasse where I was unwilling to bring to the neighbors a plan that repurposed hiking trails because I felt that was too far outside of the original agreement and the presentation and how the trails would be laid out and what was originally approved by council and how we would move forward. And that's kind of where the impasse came, and how we ended up here today to kind of figure out, is council on board with repurposing hiking trails in order to keep this project moving forward? And I stand here and I keep I'm sounding like a negative Nancy about this, and believe me, I'm not. I would love to see bike trails out there. It's just I have concerns with the way Swamp's final proposal deviated from the presentation that they provided to council back in April.
I have a question about that, if I can call it myself. So at their original presentation, when they put the map up that they put up here at the beginning of this slideshow tonight, that proposal drew a lot of conversation among the council about the close proximity of the biking trails to the existing hiking trail, the number of trail crossings that were necessary to construct that. We had extensive conversation over our concerns about that. And we asked both of you, when you were laying these things out, to minimize the trail crossings and to separate these two trails as much as possible. And so isn't it a little reasonable and fair to say that they did just that? That they did what we told them to do. They separated the trails. In fact, there's not even a single trail crossing now. And there would have been under their original. So it's a little, I don't know, unfair is probably a little strong, but it's a little, you know, we gave them guidance on this and said, well, look at all the, particularly on the right side of that screen, the red and the purple are all over each other. And we made it very clear at that time that we didn't think that was a great idea. You got bikes crossing, hiking, that's where you're going to have the problems. And so to say that they went back and changed it, well, it was kind of at our instigation that they did that. So, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but it's not, they had good reason for changing it because we kind of gave direction that we wanted some of that changed. So.
I have to comment. I thought exactly the same thing. I thought, well, now they're nowhere near each other, which is a lot better than what we had in the beginning.
Let's just be careful, and I need to chastise myself because I wandered into comments instead of questions. I'm sorry. Started as a question and it happened, so. Council member questions?
Can we put the other chart back up?
Sure. Which one?
The one on the screen, because it's different, I think, from what we're looking at
Second one.
in our support and our backup. That one, yes.
That one, okay.
Total hiking distances, I can't read it.
Total hiking distance is 1.6 miles.
So it's 8,000 feet, right?
Yeah, 83,
Yeah, I don't see, that's where I was getting a little confused. I don't see that anywhere on the one in our backup. In the backup, it's 7,053 and 4,448 for biking.
There's another file that shows it.
We did have an amended version after myself and Carl and the city manager met on Friday morning.
Okay, so this is the amended one on that, okay, fine, thank you, okay. So to just make sure I understand, white is, only the white is going to be proposed hiking.
Correct.
The blue will become biking and whatever.
No, blue is existing hiking.
Okay, I'm sorry, yes, okay, go ahead. I mean, the red is going to be the future biking, I apologize. The red is going to be the future biking.
The red is the first phase of biking.
Right. And that's going to be converted, it's going to change over to that. And the other blue will just disappear. The green would be the what if down in the future?
Yes.
Okay? And the orange would just be maintenance,
Yes, sir.
pathways in and out of the complex. Who will maintain that?
The maintenance pathways will be maintained by my grounds crews.
Your
They will use that as access to get back and forth to the pavilion to do maintenance back there.
Okay.
Carl, the pavilion is at the
It's-
west dead end of the Orange Trail on there, right?
Yes, sir.
And that entire access corridor from the parking lot up north to the river is in existence already. And then we would help Carl and staff to be able to reestablish the one that is from the parking lot back to the pavilion that was lost during the construction of the housing development.
Mr.
All right, thank you.
Langfeld, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you for the clarification. Thank you.
Mr. Langfeld, so the hiking trailhead would move to the east under this proposal? Is that, see, the white is the hiking trail,
Correct.
so those patrons would park,
The parking and access and the trailheads remain essentially unchanged. How you access the hiking trails. Now, there already exists a access to the hiking trails from the service road farther to the east of the parking area. That already exists, and then there's access to the hiking trails from the parking area as well.
other questions, council members? Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right, council members, we need a motion.
I move to approve the, I don't even know what to put here. Moving forward with this plan to continue Swamp's proposed trail.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. Discussion on the motion? Vice Mayor Schistler.
Yeah, thank you. I'm good with the hiking trail. I'm good with the biking trail. I'm not good with the green trail. I'm just afraid of what. Huh?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
okay, that's
Yep.
not clarifying.
Yep.
Are we bringing that up tonight?
Nope.
Okay, so that, we need to put, I think we need to put that in the motion in some capacity. Or else we're going to be, well, how come this was done? So if we could amend your motion to, for the green portion, they got to come back with a proposal. Because, again, we don't really even know where the construction is going to end up yet, you know, I think with a whole lot of certainty. And I can support it if we say we got to come back later for the green lines. Otherwise,
I'll amend my motion to say that it's just for the proposed stuff for the near future, not the green part. That's
Not the
future
green
meetings.
trail. The green trail is subject to future,
Right.
that's your intent.
Future approval, yeah.
Okay. So we have modified motion.
I second that modified
We have a
motion.
modified motion and a second. Further discussion on the motion. Bear with me just one moment. This goes on the screen, right? You got anything USB? Put these five up when I tell you to, please. So I just want to bring up a couple of points prior to the vote. One is that under this proposal, we are eliminating a small portion of hiking trail. In exchange for that, we're gaining far more than we are eliminating. I don't have the exact measurement in feet because apparently it's not available. But at the conclusion of this, we will gain hundreds of feet of hiking trails, right? The trail that we are vacating as a hiking trail leads to this pavilion. These pictures were taken 8 hours ago by me, right? This is the state of that pavilion under the current existing conditions. Next slide. This is what that pavilion looks like today. Next slide. And I think there's a total of 5, so. Thank you. And so, folks, as a city, we need to address this. And if it's not by putting more users out there in some capacity, then we need to tear this thing down and post it off limits and go arrest people for going back there. Because obviously, nobody is using this pavilion for its intended purpose.
Family picnic.
Yeah, and I went back there at 11:30 this morning, and I really wasn't comfortable going back there alone, right? Look at this place. So I just want everybody to understand, Swamp did what we asked them to do. There are no trail crossings between bicycles and hikers. In fact, you can access the hiking trail and the bike trail from two separate places. These two communities don't even have to cross and see each other, right? There are zero conflicts here, and we get more people back here. We need to clean this pavilion up and then keep it in a better state of repair, but we get more people back here to hopefully run these illicit users of this pavilion away. And so those are my comments.
Thank you very much for that.
Other comments on the motion? If not, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No nays. Motion is adopted. Thank you both. Next item is a selection of a Centennial Celebration Committee. Dr. Spina.
The City Council created the Centennial Celebration Committee on November 2nd, 2021 through resolution. The idea is to develop plans for the city's 100th year anniversary to include gathering community input, working with clubs, groups, and organizations for hands-on help with events, developing proposals and making recommendations to City Council regarding the city's centennial celebration, as well as assisting with the implementation of the centennial celebration plans once approved by City Council. So there are several plans. The planning is to develop a city timeline of significant events of the last 100 years, develop a theme and receive council approval for a staff-created logo in support of the year-long celebration, develop a list of potential activities, projects, programs, and events that acknowledge and honor important milestones and individuals that shape Temple Terrace history, make appropriate connections between the city's history and future plans. We'll offer at least one activity, project, program, and/or event every month for 1 year surrounding the 100-year anniversary. Should be designed to be of interest to a wide variety of cultures, age groups, ethnicities, and religious backgrounds. The city hopes to develop a realistic timeline for planning, promotion, and execution of events, submit suggestions for activities, contact representatives of clubs, groups, and organizations to include the consideration of forming subcommittees and volunteers to chair each of the events associated with each club, group, and/or organization. Develop a realistic budget to present to council for approval. Create a calendar of events. Committee member responsibilities would be to spread the word in the community through verbal and written communication with clubs, groups, organizations. Staff responsibility will be to use the Centennial theme and logo on everything, develop a promotional timeline, create a Centennial website, use social media to communicate information, honor sponsorship commitments, create a 100th anniversary video, and create a design to place on anniversary memorabilia to sell. So tonight you're being asked to appoint a representative to this committee to begin this process.
Thank you, Dr. Spina. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Seeing none, council member questions before I ask you for your selection? Procedural questions of any kind? Clerk, you ready? Okay, Councilmember Abel.
I'd like to nominate Marissa Robinson.
Thank you. Councilmember Donahue.
I'd like to nominate Sharon Gaskin.
Thank you. I'd like to nominate Cheryl Mooney.
I'd like to nominate Julie Almeida.
I would like to nominate Nancy Hudson.
Very good. Is there a motion to accept all these nominations and appoint these folks?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion and a second. Any discussion? City Attorney.
Just to be on the safe side for the appointment, if you're going to pass this, including Cheryl Mooney, if she can be designated as ex officio member on the committee since she also serves as city clerk. So just like when we did the police chief and made him also mayor, I don't want any dual office holding problem. So if we can just make sure she's an ex officio member.
Okay, I nominate Cheryl Mooney to be an ex officio member. Would you like to amend your motion?
So amended.
Is there a second?
Absolutely.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No nays? Hopefully, these folks are willing to serve. I'm hoping that we've all talked to
Well,
them, or we'll be back. Next item on the agenda is related, and that is my duty as mayor to appoint council liaisons to our various committees and boards. This one is somewhat challenging in that these celebrations won't take place until 2025, so nobody up here has a term that extends to 2025. There's elections for all of us in between now and then. So whoever I appoint, we're going to have to revisit this annually. It may not be the same person between now and 2025. So I would like to appoint, if she's willing to accept, Councilmember Donahue.
I would accept.
You're the council liaison, of course, like the other boards, they would have to elect a chair and function like other boards. Okay. If she accepts the nomination, is there a motion to confirm my appointment?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I'm sorry?
I'll vote for that too.
Any opposed? No nays? Thank you very much, Sherry, for taking this on as well in your spare time. New business and board reports. We'll start with the city manager search process, and then we'll open it up to council members. Dr. Spina?
Yes, thank you. Basically, there's two ways to move forward in a search for a public sector executive search firm. That you can go out for a request for proposals or an invitation to bid. Staff is recommending the invitation to bid process. It's a narrower approach that will be sent to specific executive search firms that are known to do business in Florida. We have provided a draft invitation to bid with you in your packet. We also have listed, I think it's 7 firms that we recommend, and I have the names of 4 others to add to it. All are known to do business in Florida, as I mentioned. You haven't done this process in 10 years. Last time you did it in 2012, you appointed or selected the Hillsborough Civil Service Board to do your search. So I did provide you just with a rough idea of what the process is like. It usually takes, once you hire a firm, probably 3 to 4 months. And we recommend you begin this process with the invitation to bid.
Thank you, Dr. Spina. City Attorney, comments?
I agree with the city manager.
Thank you. Human Resources, anything to add? Comfortable? Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Seeing none, council member questions?
So what is it we're deciding tonight, just to move forward?
Right, to prepare and send out an invitation to bid for a executive search team.
To how many firms?
Probably 10 or 11.
So when we prepared this position description, is this the appropriate place to make additions?
Yes.
Okay, I would like to, at the very last, it has special requirements. And I would like to ask that the candidate shall live within the city limits within 1 year of employment, and also shall diligently pursue and take actions necessary to become an ICMA accredited manager.
Okay. This is specifically for the executive search team, the company that'll do the search for the manager.
just
So I
wanna
think we did provide you with the manager's job description, and we can add those things to that.
That's
They're in there.
They're in there.
They're already in the job description.
the must live in the city?
Yeah, it's at the top.
6 months,
That's
not a year.
charter stuff.
Oh, even 6 months, that's even better.
That's what the charter
All right, somehow I missed seeing that, but I was very
It's in a
concerned.
different.
What about the ICMA?
And they're also.
That's in there also.
Okay, good, missed it.
Yeah, you're just
Thank
looking
you.
in the wrong place, that's all.
I was just looking in the wrong
Yeah,
place,
there's a
wanted
lot
to make
of
sure it
stuff
was in
here,
there.
sure.
It's in a different, the city
Yeah.
residency's in a different spot.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in a different spot.
I would ask, in the invitation to bid itself, we don't really need the proposed salary range at this point because it's not for the manager itself, it's for the executive search team or firm. And then, all bids received by the above-mentioned deadline should be reviewed by the administration and attorney, not HR, because HR won't be involved probably in reviewing the, well, they'll be involved, but they won't come to them in terms of the executive search teams, and then we'll do that and then bring that to you.
Okay, I do think HR should be part, at least part of the internal discussion
They
you
will be.
have, though.
For the firm search.
Yeah. Yep. I saw a hand, Vice Mayor?
Yeah, what is the anticipated cost for the recruiting? What are we looking, what kind of range are we looking at for the recruitment?
I'm
guess.
not sure. I haven't done it in a long time. Yeah.
Look, FCCMA told me $25,000 to $30,000.
So,
For the search company?
yeah, the range is gonna depend, since it's an invitation to bid. Somebody could come in low, just looking to get some work. So typically what I've seen reported is a range somewhere between 15 to 20,000 up to north of 40. Okay, so it all depends on the complexity of the search, what's going on in the market. Okay, so that's the new city manager in Clearwater. There's a recent article, his former community, Portland, Maine, that's what they're dealing with right now. So they had a wide range, and how they were going about making that decision was the question. So in the invitation to bid, that's the one area that I think you may need to weigh in on. What are you choosing based on? Are you choosing based on lowest price? Are you choosing based on some other criteria? And that may be where staff needs a little bit of direction, because you don't have to take the lowest bid, and that's usually where the complexity comes in.
Well, we will need some guidance on that, exactly what the criteria is and you know, how these 10 or 11 firms were selected and, you know, what exactly, because they're all going to say the same thing. They're all going to say, we're going to do a very robust and comprehensive national, so I mean, they're all going to use the same words. They're all going to say exactly the same thing. The only thing that's likely to be substantially different is the price.
Right.
So how do
their
we,
track record. You could ask them their track record.
yeah, so how do we sieve through this?
Well, I think you asked from how many they've done recently, how many they've placed, what their experiences have been. And then you can get references from the different cities.
Okay. Okay. Councilmember Abel.
Is there data available on, let's say, an executive search firm placed some city managers within the last year? Is there data available about whether, maybe not within the last year, but is there data available about whether or not those city managers stayed for more than a few years? Is that something that would be included in that kind of thing?
I don't know. I'm not sure that, some of it they might be giving you recent examples, and they would be there. Under ICMA rule, city managers usually required to stay 2 years, at least 2 years in one spot without resigning, so, and moving on to another city. So we can ask, you know, how their placements do, or how long tenured they are. I mean, that can be part of what you ask.
See if there's municipality satisfaction with the placement. I see. Okay. Thank you.
Will we have the opportunity,
Go ahead,
will we have the opportunity to ask questions of these firms, or is it just going to be how's that?
Yes, what we could do is probably narrow it down, and then you can bring them in here, and then you can interview the different
You know, because
Firms
we may
yourselves.
have specific questions like that, like, what's your longevity of your placements, as well as, where are you going to be looking? Are you going to just, everybody throw out the same ad in the newspaper or the periodicals or journals and so forth? I would be concerned with that. And then also, club just came in for $12,000. These are all unbudgeted items. At least some recognitions via finances to the coverage for this, because it's going to cost money all up and down. We probably should develop some type of a budget to the actual hiring, if we will. What do we have as far as relocation? What can we offer? It's not part of this part, but it's something that we need to do. I think in general, as we move forward with the whole process. So
Right,
that we're
yeah,
not
you'll
just-
have two phases, so
Pardon me?
you'll have two phases.
Understood,
of the
understood.
search. So you'll
Yeah.
do the firm, and then you'll want to negotiate with the new person.
Right.
So then, and you'll build in those questions.
But we need to have an idea, at least amongst ourselves, as to what we're potentially looking at, what kind of range we can work with.
Okay.
Agreed. Other questions, council members? Okay, so if not, we do need a motion to go down this path, if that's what the council desires.
Move to go for the, I lost it. Thank you. The invitation to bid process.
I'll second that.
Did we also second that?
Okay, I'm going to say that Councilmember Donahue beat you that time. So we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No nays? Thank you very much. Is there other new business or board reports, council members? Councilmember Abel.
I'd like to broach the topic with council about the continued need for a special assistant to the city manager. Speaking about unbudgeted expenses, and we've had several come up today, I am not sure about the utility of continuing to have 1.5 city managers. I think Dr. Spina is doing a fantastic job, and I don't know if we haven't had resignations from any department heads, in the aftermath of, our employer change. So I would like to discuss with you all about whether you think that that's something that we need to continue to maintain.
Council members.
You beat me to it.
Okay, Vice Mayor, you have the floor.
You beat me to it. I was going to make the same recommendation, ask the same question. How much longer we need to do this?
Mr. Duncan.
Yeah.
Or Dr. Spina, whoever.
Is there a question?
The question is there a need for the
I'm
ongoing?
paying attention. I didn't hear a question. You asked if
No.
there's the need. I don't know if I can answer that, so.
Yeah, so the question for really the two of you, whoever thinks is best to address this, and is there a continued need for the additional 18 hours a week?
Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Well, I think that we didn't use 18 hours. We're only using it as necessary or needed. I have asked Michelle and Rob to look into help with some of the finance department issues, particularly right now looking at utility billing, and then some software, or not programming, computer programming needs for finance. So that's the only area really where I've needed any help right now.
Okay. I do know, I'm down here a lot. I do know that they're doing some assessment of software for finance right now. As Dr. Smith just said, I do know and there's some intensive stuff planned for this week or next week. Isn't that correct? There's more.
That's correct. So according to Dr. Spina's direction, Michelle did start digging into a little bit what's going on in your department downstairs, as well as working with your finance director on some of the recommendations that she had with regard to software. So instead of just shotgunning every time somebody thinks there should be a change, actually doing the due diligence, putting a plan in place, and outlining an appropriate path forward with the solution. We're just kind of doing some groundwork to make sure all that is done the proper way. So we actually even drafted a project charter, just kind of, like, charter is a scary word for some people, it's just a Six Sigma term, but basically to outline, here's what the problem is, here's some of the resources it's going to impact, and then here's a path forward and how the city can go forward with that. So we're just doing some groundwork, making sure that when it comes to budget time and you're asked to make a decision on versions of software, you actually have due diligence with what's in place, what are potential paths forward, what is being recommended, et cetera. So that's where we're doing some work right now.
So I know about this project, I know about the software evaluation and the heavy week that's planned. What I don't know, though, is what's beyond that. And to kind of to your point, is I think this week or next week, whenever that work is occurring, but what about beyond that? Is there a need for these hours beyond that? Because I do remember when we approved this, I do remember distinctly the vice mayor asking, you know, what if the need kind of goes away and we don't need 18 hours, do we scale back? And the answer was yes, we'll scale back.
That's correct. And that's why right now and you've seen in the reports, there's been additional hours in the beginning that we weren't billing for on purpose because we recognized we were gathering information, and it's always kind of tough. The time need to be put in, but we're getting informed, and it's hard to bill for all that. So that's why there was a lot of reporting hours where we weren't actually charging for. Last week there was less hours because we were holding for this work to start. So we're just carrying those hours forward. If there's less hours, we're either going to just start crediting hours or we're just going to scale back. Mm-hmm. So that was the intent all along. The intent isn't to just find busy work. We're not interested in doing busy work. We're interested in doing the council priorities, and that's kind of what we're working on.
Okay, so can we talk about what's next after the evaluation and the work that's going on in finance? I'm not sure who I'm talking to, either one of you. Can we,
Well, your contract was with Rob, so I think that, are you asking, can like the three of us talk about?
yeah, I'd like
All of you.
to get a sense for, and I'm not singling myself out from the council, somebody's gotta be the one to talk to you, and so can we get a sense for what's next after this heavy lift in finance that seems to have an end to that, and talk about where we think we're going from there? 'Cause I think it's a fair question. I think the council members, we're spending other people's money, so we really want to, I think it's a fair question.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, Councilmember Donahue.
I have never received so much information as I am receiving now. And I just I don't know, I'm going to give you credit, Dr. Spina, because getting the information specifically as to how many hours gives me the faith that when you get to that point, the contract will cease. I'm not worried about, I want you to know what's going on next. I think that's great that you can sit down and meet with them. And you're it. Okay, we'll appoint you. But really, I just want to say thank you to, like I said, for the communication level that we are now getting. It's refreshing, and it makes me feel very confident.
Council members, Vice Mayor, is that okay
Yeah,
that we?
No, my question was going to be directed to Dr. Spina. You're the only one that could tell us whether you still need it or not, and we're relying upon you for the frugality that when we don't need it, we don't do it anymore. And I mean, I believe that was at least my intended inference when we were discussing this, that, okay, short term we need it, but short term, and if it requires asking every other week, then ask every other week, and this was the week to ask it, so.
Okay, well.
I'm good.
Right, and I haven't asked for something that I don't need, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I share their concern a little bit too, because we, at the beginning, there's no question, but things have somewhat stabilized, and we could certainly use those funds. This process is going to cost us money, so. Okay, does that
Yes, that's what I
satisfy
wanted to
your,
hear.
okay.
Thank you.
Satisfy your,
I'm good, but if I can make one more point.
Of course.
Lynn knows this, and Dr. Spina knows this. I've had lots of dealings with finance my background, any way I can help in this process, please let me know. Done it for 35 years, so any way I can be of assistance, say the word, and I'm here.
All right, thank you.
And he's historically significant.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yes.
Does that mean I'm just older than you?
Council members, other new business. Yes, Councilmember Chambers.
Items. First, I want to congratulate the Garden Club for having an outstanding event Sunday, Spring Market at Woodmont Park. It was great, well-attended, a lot of good items out there. I want to thank the city, especially Arborist Joe, for having the trees out there. It's kind of weird going around the city and seeing trees in backs of golf carts heading home or things like that, but it was nice. They were all given out. I want to also thank the city, Leisure Services, and the rest of the city, Lori, for the Chalk Art Festival, the combination. That was really well done. That chalk art is still preserved, and it is at Woodmont Park at least for a week or until the night's rain. So, go out and see it. The second thing, not wearing a white bow tie just to be dapper, but it's to promote Art en Blanc, which is a fundraising event for the Arts Council. That's in 2 weeks, Saturday night on the 26th. And we still have tables available. You can get your tickets at Eventbrite or see myself or Councilmember Donahue. But that's a great event under the white lights of Woodmont Park at night. There'll be music and dancing and good fellowship.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Council members, other new business. Other new business. Seeing none, city managers report. Dr. Spina?
Yes, thank you. I have a couple items. I just want to pass along that the city is mailing notices to residents along Ferncliff Avenue, that surveying crews will be out there getting ready to put in the sidewalk, and that it won't be on private property, but they're surveying the public area to get ready. So that project's been initiated. The second item is we received notification from Hillsborough County today that the CARES all the CARES Act funding has been approved, and it'll be on the April 6th consent agenda of the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioner meetings. So that's been completed.
Thank you, Dr. Spina. City attorney report.
I have nothing to report tonight.
Very good, thank you. I just want to comment, probably should have done this under new business. I finally got around to watching the interview that you and Corey Collins gave. Was wonderful. Very good plug for the city. It was very well done. Both of you were very well spoken. Carl, please thank Corey, and as always, your team hits a home run every time they bat. So thank you. You brought credit upon the city like you always do. So.
Well, thank you to Ms. Hayes, who put it all together for us.
Well, thank you, Ms. Hayes, for
Got
that.
us on live TV, so it was fun.
Very good. So, is there other business to come before the council? Seeing none, we will stand adjourned.